Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with If I Could Choose Only One Recording by Artist X, it would have to be the recording of Work P. Well, Artist X is Pierre Monteux, because you suggested that I had not yet done Pierre Monteux. And Work P, well, it may be an obvious choice, but I think it's an important one for reasons I will enumerate presently. Work P is the Franck Symphony in D minor. Now, Monteux is best known for his premiere of Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring, which he did record a couple of times. Not fabulously well, actually. I mean, his best recording is the Boston Symphony recording. That one's actually very good. The Paris Conservatoire recording that he made is like... And the fact of the matter is, Monteux didn't particularly care for the work, even though he was always asked to do it. And he was a pretty good sport about it. He really liked Brahms, which is interesting because he played in a string quartet, and that string quartet played for Brahms, and Brahms praised the performance. So he was a wonderful Brahmsian, yet he was only allowed to record a couple Brahms symphonies. One Brahms symphony, really, number 2, and then he did the first piano concerto with Julius Katchen. So, there's not a lot of Monteux Brahms floating around in studio recordings anyway. He was a wonderful, wonderful conductor. I mean, just one of those natural, effortless, organic kind of conductor guys. But I think his recording of the Franck Symphony is really the one that's most useful to us. First of all, it's the reference recording for the work. I mean, always has been. It was recorded in the early 1960s. Let's see, what was it, like 61 or so, or thereabouts? 63? No. 59, pardon me, 1959, in glorious living stereo with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. I mean, really, just fabulous. Reiner's Chicago Symphony Orchestra. And I think that it's important to do Franck because it needs the love. It's one of those pieces that sort of lives on the fringe of the repertoire. It used to be enormously popular. It's much less so now. And it's a great work. It's a masterpiece. So I really think that this recording is important, to keep us aware of just how fabulous a piece it is. It's a beautifully proportioned, not, the piece can be played in this sort of sticky, romantic way with crap loads, whatever you want to call it, of rubato, and it could be vulgarized. And Monteux would never do that, and his performance isn't like that. It is more classically proportioned. But the reason it's such an important performance is because Monteux was there at the premiere. Remember, Monteux was born in 1875. When he was 12, he was still 12, he was going on 13, close to his bar mitzvah date. If he had one. He was Jewish, but I don't know if he had one. Anyway, he in 1888, the Symphony in D minor was premiered, and Monteux was there. So we have a pedigree that is unmatched. Now, we do not know, of course, what that performance sounded like, and we don't know if Monteux felt any impulse to reproduce what he heard when he was 12, assuming he remembered what he heard when he was 12. But there is no question that his interpretation represents a legitimate performance style for the work. I mean, you don't find anybody who is more capable of telling us that. And the reason I find that important is because we have these period instrument whack jobs running around saying that, well, this is the way they played, and this is what they did, and this is what it sounded like. When we have this and gorgeous living stereo from someone who was actually physically present. And there's no reason he didn't remember what it sounded like. I mean, I remember what things sounded like when I was 12. Let's put it this way. If these people who were not there and have no clue can tell us what period performances sounded like, shouldn't we trust Pierre Monteux at least equally? when he does it, and the way he does it is very interesting because, I mean, I just was reading, and we were talking about this in that horrible period instrument Mahler 5, conducted by Philip von Steinecker, where he talks about, well, in Mahler's day, everyone played with lots of vibrato and portamento. Well, here we are, right? Monteux was around then, and in Mahler's day, Mahler died in 1911. He was born in 1875. He was he's 15-year difference between him and Mahler. So he was about 35 when Mahler died and pursuing his career as a conductor. And he did not use an excess of vibrato, and he did not encourage excesses of portamento, even if orchestras did it. I mean, none of that is true. None of the things these people are telling us is necessarily true about specific performances of specific works. It depends on the artists. It always depended on the artists. It may have depended on the artist more back then than it does today. Today, perhaps the artists are a little bit more interested in Werktreu, as they say auf Deutsch, fidelity to the score and just the score. That may be true, but it doesn't change the basic principle that what we're being fed by these period instruments, soi-disant scholars, is just horseshit. It's total nonsense. And the irony, of course, is that we have the recorded evidence that proves it. Ha-ha! Along with zillions of other conductors like Weingartner and Toscanini and Bruno Walter, and they were all there in the 1860s, 70s, and 80s, and they all lived to make, some of them, stereo LPs, or at least mono LPs. They made it to the 50s. They recorded their core repertoire, and those recordings belie everything that these people today are saying about period instrument practice and performance, just about. And I just find that fascinating. You don't see Pierre Monteux screaming at the Chicago Symphony, "Oh, you're using the wrong instruments. You have to use trombones with narrow bores and oboes like they made at the Paris Conservatory." No, they didn't care. They wanted the best sound they could get from the best artists they could find, and they made the greatest recordings of these works. And Monteux's Franck Symphony in D minor is Exhibit A for how stupid these people are. And it's also Exhibit A for the greatness of Pierre Monteux and the Franck Symphony, which is absolutely fabulous. So there you have it, my friends. If I could choose only one recording by Pierre Monteux, both for himself and for its historical significance, this would be it. The Franck Symphony in D minor with the Chicago Symphony on RCA. I'd be very interested to get your choices. There's a lot to choose from. I mean, he was terrific. So, we could put together a very nice discography. And keep on listening, my friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.